Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time we have an unboxing of the Galaxy A05s. Let's get started. This device was announced for Mexico at a price of 3,299 pesos. On the screen you see the reference price in dollars to get an idea, although remember that the prices here are not the same as there. It seems to me that for a Galaxy and for Mexico it is a competitive price, especially considering that Samsung usually launches very expensive devices, but this one I think already has good specs for this price. Join me in unboxing it so we can see what's in the box, which apparently won't be much. And the first thing we find is the charger and the papers of a lifetime. The box doesn't seem to have much content. As you will notice, there is no charger included in the box, so let's take the device out to get to know it. Here are the features the manufacturer wants to highlight. For starters, Infinity U display, that is a notch in the shape of a drop. Then, triple camera on the back. In a moment I'll tell you the specs to see if it really has to be considered to have 3 cameras or just 2 or just 1. But either way, let me see that the third highlight is that it has fingerprint reader on this side, so I think it's got interesting features. Let's take this plastic off. The design looks very nice to me, especially on the back cover. Let me put it on power while we look at the last thing that comes in the box. Here we have only your key to remove the tray. It's not much, I insist, in that the box comes very simple. The charger has to be purchased separately. So even though it is an inexpensive device, you still have to consider the extra that the original charger would cost you. Or you can also buy a charger that is compatible with the power delivery standard and you can probably save a little money there. That's it. Let me set it up and get back with you so we can take a more complete look at its specs. And that's it, we've got the device set up so we can take a look at its main specs. It has a weight of 194 grams and a thickness of 8.8 millimeters. I think in this regard it doesn't really stand out or disappoint, it simply does what one would expect. The screen is PLS with full HD plus resolution and 6.7 inches on its diagonal. It is a screen that looks good within what one would expect in this range, although it has 60 Hz still. Also, obviously the viewing angles are not going to be that outstanding. It's a screen that still stays as an entry-level screen. It only has a speaker at the bottom and it does have a headphone jack. On the front camera we will have 13 megapixels with f aperture 2.0. And look here, just a sneak peek of the preview before taking the picture with this camera. It still looks very overexposed in the background, but notice that after taking the picture it makes a good balance. The truth is that for an entry-level device it does feel like it takes good pictures. Although in this case it still feels like there is a little halo around my face because I was in the dark area. So the HDR effect might look a little bit exaggerated, but the truth is that still the result is good. And on the back we have the 50 megapixel main camera with f1.8 aperture. And on its sides we are going to find the 2 megapixel macro and depth cameras with f2.4 aperture. Although note, on the back cover even appears a Galaxy S24. Here we have some example pictures. It gives us good colors, a good level of detail as well. Here I applied a 2x digital zoom and it still retains good quality. And notice that the 10x maximum zoom also seems to make good use of the 50 megapixel sensor that this device gives us. In fact, this photograph is 50 megapixels just so you can see that it does get to have a good level of detail. So I think it is a camera that can actually perform well and can be an attractive point of this device. This is a picture taken with the macro camera and this is a picture with the main camera applying 2x zoom. Notice that even the main camera is going to give us more detail than what the macro camera gives us. So I think the macro camera ends up being a bit useless, considering that with the main camera we can get to appreciate even more detail. And lastly, I also did a quick test of the depth camera and noticed that in this portrait photograph it does keep me in focus as I am in the foreground. But the object in my hand is not kept in focus as accurately as it should be, assuming that the depth camera is used to detect the difference between the foreground and background. So, in practical terms, even though it looks like it has 3 cameras, I would consider it to have only one usable camera. The good news is that it can record video in Full HD at 60 frames per second. That's something that other more expensive devices don't offer, so I think it does stand out in that department. The battery is 5000 milliamps and the charger is sold separately. It supports charging up to 25 watts, so that's a good thing, and you can tell that the charger is supporting this maximum charge when it lights up in this blue hue. If you plug in another simpler charger and it lights up green, it means it's not drawing the full 25 watts. But you could also buy power delivery chargers so you don't spend so much on the original charger. It also gives us 4 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. These 4 gigabytes of RAM might come up a bit short considering that Samsung usually has a slightly heavier system, although in this case it's a slightly trimmed down system, but it still maintains, for example, the modes and routines that Samsung usually reserve for the high end. And it also retains some advanced features, such as supporting multiple apps in a floating window. So it has good options, but they can take their toll by consuming a lot of RAM. In the review, we will see how it performs while keeping multiple applications open. Remember that it comes with One UI 5.1 and Android 13 running out of the box, although in this case it is already receiving some updates. In fact, you know this is one of Samsung's strong points because it promises that even this low-end device is going to get a lot of updates. And finally, its processor is the Snapdragon 680. Other manufacturers integrate this processor in much more expensive devices, so it's nice to find it in a budget Samsung device. We are going to run a test to see more or less what would be the power capable of offering us, but we can anticipate that for the price it will be a good enough power for the vast majority of users. We have criticized this processor on other occasions, but because it is present in devices that cost almost twice as much as this device, so I think seeing it in this Galaxy A05s is good news. Let's wait for the result and come back. And that's it, we have the score here. We have 417 points in single-core and 1,456 points in multi-core, showing that for this price it is a considerably powerful processor, although we will have to see how it behaves in conjunction with the RAM that sometimes falls short in low-end Galaxy devices. But for now, it has been just a first initial glimpse. Remember that we will also have the video review available soon. I hope you liked this video. If you did, you know you can let us know. And we'll see you next time.